Hey everybody, this is Darren Van Dam and you are watching Flick Connection, the show that helps you get more out of movies, and today I want to tell you about some of the best sci-fi movies you can currently watch on Netflix. So I cannot really in good conscience call this a top 10 list because some of the absolute best sci-fi movies I just mentioned recently on another list. So if you find some of the best like Ex Machina and Her are not found on this list, look to some previous videos I did on sci-fi movies, but I'll put links to those in the description below. But starting this list off, back at number 10, which means it's the least best movie on this list, is The Sixth Day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Now, this is kind of where Schwarzenegger started to fizzle. It was very, very close to him becoming the Governor, and his last couple of movies there were so-so. And the only reason I say that is because Schwarzenegger was so consistently good, or at least his movies were so consistently good for so much of his career. But it takes place in the near future. It's about cloning. There's some cool things that happen in it. It's not overly violent because it is PG-13. But if you never saw this one and you just want to watch sort of a mindless sci-fi movie, this one actually surprised me. It starts off lamer than it ends up. By the end of the movie, I was actually kind of surprised how much I liked this one. Don't love it, but that's why it's back at number 10. Now, an objectively worse movie that I liked a lot more is 2307 Winter's Dream. In fact, I even mentioned this one on a bad movies list I did recently, but I do like this one. Now, the reason it got listed on a bad movies list is because it has very, very low production value, and there's nothing wrong with a low-budget movie, but this one's so ambitious in its sci-fi nature. It's so far in the future, and it's such a kind of a crazy concept with futuristic weapons and armor and, you know, weird beings and all kinds of cool stuff that the low budget does show through at times. However, there are times in this movie I was very impressed with what they were able to pull off, and other times I was just disappointed and thought, man, if they just had a little bit more money, it could have been that much better. It could have been, this movie really could have been something great. That said, if you're a movie fan, I think you'll find something to love here. There's a decent story. It's a cool concept. It looks good at times, like I said. So tread lightly. Don't expect anything to change your life here. But if you feel like you've really just kind of worn out this genre on Netflix, this could be a good one to try out. For a Netflix original, Extinction is kind of a cool sci-fi movie. Now, the reason this one doesn't rank higher is, to me, it feels smaller than a movie. It feels like maybe the beginning of a series, or maybe like a standalone Twilight Zone type episode. It has some very cool elements to it. It's loosely about an alien invasion. The thing with this one is I can't tell you too much more than that because it will ruin the movie entirely. However, it's cool. Like, again, it's low budget. It's a Netflix original. It's essentially a made-for-TV movie, but it's got a good cast, and it's got some interesting effects, and the story is interesting. It plays out really well, so much so that by the time it was over, I kind of wished it had been the beginning of a series. I would have liked to have continued this story and seen more. Maybe we'll get a sequel. Maybe we won't. It's kind of hard to tell how successful these Netflix original movies are. If you like that one, let me know in the comments below. Another Netflix original that I thought was slightly better is Tao. This one is about a futuristic smart home run by a genius. Let's call him like a Steve Jobs, Tony Stark type of a character. He's got this super high-tech home with a supercomputer that runs it and like an artificial intelligence type of a thing. But the twist they tease out in the trailer is that he's actually keeping people captive in the house and running experiments on them. And one of the experimentees escapes, and it plays out like a pretty cool story. Again, this one does feel like a made-for-TV movie, but it's a good one in that respect. I feel like if I went to the theater for this one, I'd be disappointed. However, when I watched it on Netflix on a Friday night, I wasn't. Now, Skyline was a kind of a cool movie that came out a few years back. It was, again, about an alien invasion. The cool thing was it was a special effects expert, someone who's worked on like Marvel movies, stuff like that, that did this on a very, very low budget, basically filmed it in his condo, did all the special effects himself, and it looks like a big blockbuster movie. Like, that's what's so cool about it. It has some weird, wonky story elements because it is kind of a smaller project. I like Skyline. I thought it was cool. I didn't love it. I watched it once, and it was good enough. Beyond Skyline is way more epic. I couldn't believe how epic this movie actually was. It's got an incredible cast for an action movie. Some wild stuff happens in it. It's an epic journey. There's gigantic alien things. They're on a ship for a big portion of the time. Now, this one was not filmed in his condo like the original, but it was still done on a very low budget with cutting-edge technology, and that's what this movie is. It's a way to display what is possible now with such a low budget, and for that, I thought it was really cool. As a movie nerd, I really geeked out on this one. If that's you, definitely watch this one. If you want to watch something that's just like completely cutting edge, like a blockbuster that should be in the theater, you'll likely be disappointed with the Skyline series. If you like this type of content, definitely click that subscribe button and be sure to click the little bell icon so you get notified when I put out new videos just like this one. Alright, and when we get to the top 5, we get into some much better movies. Pandorum is a really cool space horror movie. I like this one a lot. It's got its issues, but I can easily overlook them for how good this movie looks, how good the performances are. Ben Foster is in it for the bulk of the movie. He's by himself for a lot of the movie as well, and he's one of my favorite actors. This one's scary. He's trapped on this dark spaceship, and there are creatures trying to kill him and some other people that he finds. This one is rated R. It's gory. It's violent. It's frightening. It's got some good sci-fi elements. This is a really, really good little hidden gem that is not, you know, as good as Alien, but hardly any movies in this genre are. But this is a nice little gem that a lot of people missed when it was released, but luckily you get to watch it now on Netflix. One the whole family can enjoy over the holidays is The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Now this one's really fun. It stars Martin Freeman. It's based on a very popular, I believe, like radio series, if I'm not mistaken. And it's cool because it's got like practical effects and CGI, so it's got some classic puppetry that was done at a time when that art form had almost died. It sort of helped revive it. But this one's funny. It is a sci-fi space odyssey, and it's really cool. Martin Freeman is in his bathrobe the entire time. He's this reluctant hero on this one. A lot of funny jokes. Again, fun for the whole family. It's rated PG. There is some crude humor, but it is accessible. It is very family friendly, and one of the only ones on this list. And oh, nope, I've got one more. The Iron Giant is one of my favorite animated movies to have come out this century. It really is that good. It's directed by Brad Bird, who went on to do The Incredibles, went on to do a Mission Impossible movie, possibly one of my favorite Mission Impossible movies. Anyway, The Iron Giant uses classic hand-drawn animation mixed in with some computer elements, but it's hand-drawn. It's got a classic feel. It takes place in the 50s. It's got Cold War elements all over it. Really, really cool stuff. I love the aesthetic of this one. I love the time period. I love everything about it. There are some elements like a impending nuclear strike that are maybe a little intense for very, very young kids, but the nostalgia element of this one is great. And it's a fantastic story with some really cool action and possibly one of the best sci-fi animated movies of all time. Hellboy and the Golden Army is a really great sequel to a great sci-fi movie, which is Hellboy, which will be added to Netflix in December. So it's a good time to watch both of them coming up. I really, really like the Golden Army because it is more epic than the original. Maybe not as tight of a story if I'm to be real critical of it, but still very good. It's directed by Guillermo del Toro, who is now an Academy Award-winning director. The production design on these movies is second to none. It's beautiful. A great sequel that just didn't do what so many sequels often do and try to rehash and recapture what the original did. It is its own thing. I really wish we had gotten a third installment, got a full trilogy before the new Hellboy. There is a reboot that does look interesting. It does not look half-assed to me at all, so I'm interested to see that coming up next year as well. And my number one pick, which has been a number one pick on some previous lists recently, is Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I mean, this is one of my favorite Spielberg movies. It's probably top 3. I love it. I think it's really, really great. Everything that's happening is so interesting because you've got this guy that is sure he knows he's seen UFOs. He feels like he's been contacted. He feels drawn to something or some place. So you got that story. You got the story with the mother whose child goes missing. You've got them trying to break in to this government-guarded piece of property. You've got the government interrogating them. You've got them escaping and climbing through the mountains. There's so many like layers and elements. This is such an epic story. And then the finale is just this incredible light show, sound show. I love this movie so much. I mentioned it on a recent video. The tune famous from this movie is actually my ringtone. That's what you get if you were to call me, but I'm not giving out my phone number on YouTube because I'm not a total idiot. But that is my list for the best sci-fi movies on Netflix right now. Like I said, there are some others that would have topped this list. They're on other lists that I previously did. Links to those are in the description. But let me know which movies from this list you will be watching. And I'll keep making videos just like this one as long as you keep watching them. Thanks for checking this one out, and you will see me on the next one. If you're a regular viewer and you'd like to support the show, you can do so a number of ways. You can visit the Teespring store and buy a t-shirt. You can become a Patreon supporter and possibly get a free Flick Connection t-shirt, depending on what tier you pick. And you can just like, comment, and most importantly, share. If you know someone who would benefit from getting lists and recommendations like this, share it with them. You'll benefit them. It'll help the channel grow. We're growing great, by the way, so I really appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in on a weekly basis.